Depending on your noise level tolerance, the Tascam DR-60DmkII can power the Shure SM7b, but it's a little bit noisy for me personally. If it's within your budget, yes, I definitely recommend adding a mic activator such as the FetHead for a relatively affordable price, which does help to improve the audio ever so slightly as we have seen. If you want to stick around for a little bit longer, we can go into some more detail by rewinding back to the beginning of the video. Otherwise, thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video. When I decided to purchase the Shure SM7b microphone, two things were clear to me. I needed a new recorder with the XLR input and a relatively powerful mic preamp, as this mic is very famous for needing a lot of gain. I settled with the Tascam DR-60DmkII as I like the design and functions, on paper at least, but the thing is I couldn't find much information on YouTube or online about this recorder paired with this mic in particular. I mostly found videos of people using like the Zoom recorders, which are apparently not enough to drive this mic cleanly, or the mkII 3, which it can but costs a lot more. The DR-60D sits somewhere in between in terms of the price, but like I said, I couldn't find much information of this particular pairing. Let's start off with the tests. I plugged this mic into the Tascam and I usually aim for around -20 dB, which gives me plenty of headroom in post to boost the audio without the rest of clipping the audio. The Tascam has multiple gain settings as well as the gain dial at the front. You can choose from a couple of input gain settings from low, mid, high to high plus, but at that point it becomes quite noisy. I try to use the least amount of possible to keep the noise floor low as possible, but I had to use the high gain setting to get a reasonable signal with the input gain dial at the front set to around 1 and 2 o'clock position in order to hit my -20 dB target. In post, I volume normalized it to -18 dB LUFS. If we take a quick reading at the practical noise floor, we can see that, I mean, you can literally see the noise presented here, but can also hear it. The silent portion measured around -53 dB. It's not the end of the world. We could use some denoising filter, but that's an extra step and it's always best to get a clean signal in the first place. I have to say I was a little bit disappointed since I thought this prosumerish Tascam could handle it slightly better, but at least I finally have an answer to my original question, which was, can the Tascam run the SM7b? Yes. For another £90 or $120, we can add the mic signal booster to try and reduce the background noise a little bit. All we have to do is plug it in between the Tascam and the mic and make sure we provide phantom power this time around, whereas a normal dynamic microphone doesn't usually require it, but we need to power the FetHead. I recorded another test audio piece. This time, not only can I lower the mic preamp gain setting to medium, but also set the gain dial to around 11 to 12 o'clock position. Of course, still aiming for the -20 dB target in the recording before I loudness normalize it to the same 18 dB LUFS. This time, when we took a look at the reading at the silent portion, we get a reading of around -57 dB. So with the FetHead added, we have reduced the noise floor by around 5 dB. It doesn't sound like a huge amount, but it's definitely an improvement and audible nonetheless. This is a quick audio test with the Shure SM7b. I'm right on top of the microphone, going directly into the Tascam DR-60D. We are using the high gain setting to get a decent volume to be just over -20 dB, somewhere around -17, 15, but generally speaking, I want to aim to be just over the -20 dB range. This is the Shure SM7b going into the Tascam DR-60D, but in this instance, we have got the FetHead installed in between the Tascam DR-60D. And whereas before we had to set the gain input set to high, and it was up to around 1 to 2 o'clock position, now that we've got the FetHead installed, I managed to switch the input gain to medium instead of high, and because it was way too loud before, so I've set it to medium, and the dial is set to around 11 to 12 o'clock position compared to the 1 o'clock 2 position using the high gain setting. So this is the medium gain. So in conclusion, as we said at the beginning of the video, it depends on your noise level tolerance. The Tascam DR-60D can power the Shure SM7b, but it's a bit noisy for me personally. If it's within your budget, yes, I definitely recommend it. Adding a relatively affordable mic activator to the chain, such as the FetHead, the one that I've tested here, for a slight improvement. However, obviously that also adds more costs to the overall setup. Not as much as a Mix-Pre 3 or a Zoom F6 for example, but consider this: the Zoom H4, H5 or the H6 all cost more, and although not tested by myself, from the examples I've heard online, also needs more gain in order to run this mic cleanly. Therefore, I think it's still a reasonable price versus performance by running the Tascam with a FetHead. Before we go, I just want to do a quick review on the Tascam recorder. Here are some of the main things I like about it: the 4-track audio recording capability, the 2 XLR inputs, as well as the stereo 3.5mm connection. Nice line output if you want to feed the audio directly into the camera. It even includes a low as well as a high gain output depending on the sensitivity of your mic's input on the camera. Has a headphone out, knob gain dials at the front, easy to use interface, fairly good amp, USB power option, and one of the best features I like is the slate tone audio function for syncing the audio to the camera. You can set the Tascam to make a beep tone whenever you hit the record button. This can be set at the beginning or the end. If the recorder output is connected to a camera, it will capture the tone in the camera file as well as the audio file. This will make it much easier to sync and post by the software or seeing the waveform. There are, of course, a couple of things which I'm not too keen on. For example, the 4 AA battery doesn't last very long. It doesn't work like a USB interface when you connect to a computer like the Zoom does. It's quite heavy and bulky. The gain dial, although tactile, is digital, so you can notice the steps when you dial it too quickly. Would I buy it again or recommend it? Now that I've tested it for quite a while, the only thing that might be a deal breaker for me is the lack of option to use it as an audio interface. Like I said, like the Zoom, you can use this mic and to connect it to a computer, like an interface. Otherwise, I think all the other features are better than the Zoom H4 or 5, but actually, come to think of it, the Zoom does have the built-in mic options or the mic capsule options. So yeah, it's a bit of a tough one depending what your needs are. But for me, it works since I already have an external mic. With that being said, I hope you found this video interesting in some way. If you did, please consider giving me a like. A huge thank you for watching as always. My name is Joe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye for now.